Please give it up for Eileen Wold.
My name's Eileen Wold, and I'm here at MICA pursuing my MFA. About 10 years ago, I started painting landscapes like the one you see behind me. They were really serene, kind of beautiful places, untouched by man. And then I moved to Manhattan, and some interesting things started happening. Northern New Jersey became my landscape, and some of these power plants and refineries started kind of creeping their way in to some of my landscapes, as you see here. And then they eventually really took over. At that point, when the power plants and refineries of Northern New Jersey took over my paintings, I started to question, well, what are our ideas of landscape, really? What counts as a landscape painting? At that point, I really started to question how we see our landscape, how we use it, how it's changing. And also around that time, I was driving a lot between DC, Baltimore, and New York, along the New Jersey Turnpike and the Delaware refineries. I took hundreds of photographs that I used as studies for my paintings, and really, they didn't seem like snapshots like this. That drive from Baltimore to New York really felt like this never-ending industrial landscape of refineries that really continued in both directions along the Colonial Pipeline. And that's when I took my photos and started actually transferring them to create these never-ending landscapes. I took photographs from my studies and just started using them and drawing into them and overlaying them to create these kind of composite panoramic landscapes. And then I started to think, well, what would it really feel like if there was no end to that landscape and you had no respite, there was no real landscape left? And when I got to MICA, I was encouraged to kind of continue that thought and push it even further. And I took all those photographs and lined them around the studio, which you'll see in a second, and started cropping them out and thinking about what sections of each of these photographs really represent what our landscape means today and how it's changing. And you'll see that here. And it really was overwhelming when you walked into this space. It surrounded you, and then it followed you outside and followed you down the hall to the bathroom. And you were like, okay, enough, I get it. And that's kind of how I'm starting to feel when you're driving, doing that drive up and down. And if we're going to keep drilling and relying on fossil fuels as our power source to power our way of life, we have no new refineries in this country. Not a new one has been built since the peak in the 70s. So we're going to have to start really building refineries and power plants, not just drilling. It's not just Alaska that will be affected. So I went out to reshoot a lot of these locations once I started clearing up what I was thinking about. And a lot of these places don't like you to photograph their location ever since 9/11 and in general. So I got in a little bit of trouble. But Resco Power Plant here in Baltimore is actually a great facility. If you can tour them, you should. They're very open and transparent, and I took a lot of photographs there. You'll see here's one where I wanted to try to bring in not only the power plant, the plant producing power, but then bringing the power lines, showing the power lines that are bringing the power to you as an end user. So I started thinking about myself. Well, where am I in all this conversation? I'm an end user. I keep my lights on at night. I have a 3-month-old baby in the back, and I'll put on anything. I'll plug anything in that'll make her sleep. And here's one of the Resco plant. I don't know if you can see at the bottom there were ducks and wildlife, and kind of thinking how these things coincide. And I started taking the photographs and manipulating them and thinking about what the possibilities of our landscape are. What if I add in trees? What if I take the refinery out? What if I put the refinery in? That's actually Delaware. And here's a northern New Jersey refinery, the Linden Cogeneration Plant. And this is just a snapshot of a tree. And I thought, what if I took the tree out and put the refinery in, or vice versa? What are the possibilities of our landscape that surrounds us? And then I started to actually look at the photographs from the drive and thinking about what do we allow ourselves to see in our landscape. And we really, when we're doing the drive, we're just looking at the cars in front of us. We're just on this go, go, go. And I think that speaks for a lot of us in our lives and our daily lifestyle. And we're not really allowing ourselves to see the power plants, the refineries that are surrounding us and what our landscape is becoming. And are we okay with it? We really need to kind of stop and ask ourselves that. And I don't know. I mean, that's all for you all to decide for yourselves. Recently, I started taking some more photographs and going back to some of these sites, especially in Baltimore, and using this whiting out and cropping technique to really think about the transparency of the information. I've been doing a lot of reading and research about the oil industry and about power in general, and it's not the most transparent industry. They like to, tell you a lot, but without telling you anything. And I'm kind of playing with that a little bit here, and this is actually one here in Baltimore. I'll show you a close-up. There's a detail shot, and it's really funny what it says in the sign. I don't know if you can see it. kind of blurry. It says nobody gets hurt. I thought that was really funny. I don't know who they're talking to with that sign, but I was like driving by and click, click, click. This last slide that's about to come up is my most recent endeavor here, and it's really following my own interaction with the power grid. And I encourage you, all of you, to just do this for a day. Just write down every time you interact with the power grid. And I realized my alarm clock that wakes me up in the morning, the computer to check my email, security cameras that keep us safe, street lights. Like I stopped at a street light, I'm like, oh, I interacted with the power grid. So it's necessary, power is necessary, technology is necessary and important, but just how we power it is what we need to consider. And I hope that the art gives you a platform for contemplation with that. Thank you.